Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you? This is Kris with Inspired Energy. This morning, we're going to be continuing our series on near death experiences, and I have my guest here this morning is Steve Loshney. So, I'll just start off and tell you a little bit about Steve. So, Steve was born in Melfort, Saskatchewan in 1951, and he spent most of his childhood there. His parents bought a restaurant, so they lived and worked there until he left home. He was then married 3 times and had a short common law relationship. He has 2 sons, and he spent time as an accounting clerk and then eventually an electrician. He's now retired and living in Edmonton. And one thing that's important to Steve is spirituality is a main part of his life for which he's very grateful. And I'm sure that part of this whole near death experience has something to do with all of this as well. So, good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
So, we're just going to dive right in and we're going to just start talking about your first near death experience that you can either remember or that was related to you, because I believe it was very early on in your life.
Yes. Yeah. The first one, and how I came to realize what it was. I'll get to that. But through my life, I'd always see this picture of a little boy laying face down in a ditch of water. And this is in the springtime around March or April. And he was drowned. And I always thought that was my cousin Jean, who was our neighbor. And so about 20 years ago, I was visiting my mother. So I was driving her. We were going on a little trip. And I mentioned it to her, and she said, "No, that wasn't Jeannie." I called him Jeannie.
Mm-hmm.
It was you. Yeah.
Oh, and so do you remember any part of that as a child? Like you remember seeing yourself laying face down, but do you remember anything that happened while you were drowned?
Actually, I don't. All I remember is that I was out of my body and I was looking at myself in the ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And in that part of the little village we lived in, there was ditches around, and then people put a plank across in the springtime so you
Right.
could walk across, and I fell
Right.
in. And and then the neighbor was standing about 10 feet away from me, and Mom told me that he wouldn't pull me out of the water. So he hollered at my mother, who was about 150 feet away, hanging close.
Right.
And he's saying, "Mary, Mary, Stevie's drowning." This is what my mom told me.
Yeah, instead of
So
helping
Mom,
you.
instead
Yeah.
of pulling me out of the water, so Mom said she ran over and got me out of the water, and I guess my oldest sister said she was there too, but she couldn't do anything. She was only 5, like I was 3 years old. And she said, Mom pressed on me, and I wasn't breathing. Then all of a sudden, I spit out a lot of water,
Right.
and I
And then
started
you came
breathing
back.
again.
Right.
Yeah, then
So you actually popped out of your body that first experience and you saw yourself.
Yeah.
So then you didn't really remember where you went or what you saw, but then you also had another experience when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit? Well, can you tell us a little bit about those?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
I can. Yeah, and the second one, it was really something my cousin was actually, there's a story behind it. He was dating this girl from the church, and I knew all the kids, and I went there once in a while. And so they said, "Why don't you come to our Bible camp?" And I can't remember if I was 14 or 15. Maybe I was 15. And so I said, "Okay, I'll go for the week." And we had fun. And so we were out in a rowboat, this old wooden rowboat. We went out. There's 5 of us, I think, on the boat, and we were diving in the water.
Yeah.
Diving in the water.
In the water again.
In the water again. I love water, and I'm terrified to swim.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
no, it's not that bad. But so anyway, I dove in. I remember coming out of the water, and I'm looking up, and I was just grabbing on to the side of the boat, and this girl, I'll call her Bonnie. That was her
Okay.
name. She stepped in my head like we were horsing around,
Yeah.
and I went down. And then the next thing I remember is I was going to the light. There was a light in the tunnel and a light at the end, and there was string music playing, violin music.
So very like an angelic choir type
Yeah.
music playing.
Yeah, and later on, people told me, well, that's angels singing
Mm-hmm.
or talking, angel's
Right.
voice.
Right.
Yeah, and
So when you were going through that and you saw the light, what were you experiencing? Like, what was your emotional state?
emotional state was comfort, and you're going home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
That's what
going
you were
home, and
thinking.
it was, yeah, and comfort. There's no pain.
Mhm.
Uh, that's one thing I noticed about the different experiences. There's the pain is gone, and the
Mhm.
sorrow. There's no sorrow,
Mhm.
and it's comforting,
Right.
very comforting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to this light, and the music's playing, and yeah, it was looking good. And then all of a sudden, I'm thrashing on top of the water.
So
So
you went back into your
I went
body
back into my body
again.
again,
Okay. Yeah. That's.
and then I'm on the surface, splashing around.
Mhm.
And when I was pushed down, I went down right beside the boat, and they were at least about, I'd say about 70 feet away from me.
Mhm.
And they said I was under for a while, and they were diving looking for me.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know how long, and
How long you were in that
yeah.
experience. Mhm.
So
But when you were in it, how long did it feel? Did it feel like it was longer than a few minutes, or did it feel like
I never
forever?
thought about how long. It seemed like, yeah, it seemed like minutes because I wasn't going real fast to the light,
Mhm.
and I could hear the music, and it was just soothing.
Mhm.
Everything was just soothing and
Mhm.
comforting.
So it was just a light that you saw during that experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a big light.
It was a big light. It was
Yeah.
really bright.
Yeah, very bright. Yeah.
So as you were going through that one, did anything come to you after that experience, or did it change you in somehow, or did you not even understand it?
I did. I kind of understood it, but nobody ever really talked about it much.
Mhm.
And I understood it, and I don't know. I think I was more relaxed, or and it just goes through my whole life. I always felt like I was there was somebody with me, like angels with me, protecting me all the time.
Mhm.
Because this is like I call this a spiritual death, but there's so many other kind of deaths I was
Yeah.
close to.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody protecting me and telling me to walk away
So
just before something bad would happen.
you would hear voices then, or just an internal knowing.
It's an internal knowledge.
Yeah.
I hardly ever hear a voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just something drops in and you just know.
It says,
Yeah.
"Don't go there.
That
You're
it
going to
doesn't.
jail."
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Whatever
Yeah,
that is, right?
exactly. I don't hang out with those guys. But the thing
Yeah.
is that by going through these experiences and the spirituality of it, it's still our choice
Right.
whether to follow the path or not. And I, of course, have made some bad choices, and we all do, because
Yeah.
should I do this or shouldn't do that? Well, that might be a lot of fun if I did this.
Yeah. Might try this
Yeah.
or that. Yeah, exactly. So I know that now you've had that second drowning experience. And then again, when you're a teenager, we were talking and you
Yeah.
had another near death experience,
Yeah.
I believe, with an illness.
Yeah, I was 17,
Mhm.
and what happened is my my second sister, she was getting married, and her future husband, his brother got in a bad accident, so his parents were away in the city, and I went out to the farm to help him with the chores.
Right.
So I went out there to help with the chores, and yeah, a couple of days were going fine, and usually for dinner we would go to his cousin's place. And this one day I was extremely ill. I stayed up until we got the chores done at 6:30. He was going to his cousin's, and I said, "No, I can't go. I have to stay.
Because I'm
I'm
not
really
well.
sick,
Yeah.
and I'm going to pass out." And so I went to bed. And it was in July. The sun is shining in.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it was a two-story farmhouse, and the windows facing west of my door. Was bedroom doors open in the hallway, and a big window. It just,
Yeah, it's pretty emotional. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing. I understand reliving it can bring up the same emotions and stuff that you felt.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So there I was, laying in bed. I fell asleep. It was terrible pain in my head, and my body just felt horrible. So all of a sudden, I could kind of woke up. I could feel I'm being lifted out of bed. I'm being lifted up physically. And the only reason I can explain my whole body was being lifted because my soul wouldn't leave the body. I think I just figured that out the last couple of years, and that's why I felt my whole body being lifted.
Mhm.
And so I look, and there's an angel standing in the doorway.
What did the angel look like?
Well, the angel, It was a bright, long robe. It was all white, real bright, no facial features, but I knew it was a man. He was talking, and he did have like a hood over his head, but the face was open, and just mentally communicating. And I said to him, I said, "What's this?" And says, "Well, it's time to go." I said, "No."
Oh, you didn't want
I
to go
said, "No,
this
I'm
time.
not going. I'm not going. I got stuff to do. I'm young.
Oh, yes.
I got stuff to do yet." He
Right.
said, "No, you have to go." I said, "No." And then there was a break, and I know after the fact, I used to, when I get in a certain mood, I would write little verses. I really wouldn't call it poetry or anything. They're just short verses, and most of us talk about talking through the going through the garden of life with God. So I know the angel took me somewhere to show me stuff,
Okay.
but I don't explicitly remember it. And then I'm back in bed, and we're talking. The angel and I are talking. And he says, "Okay, you can stay, but," he said, "the condition is, there's two conditions you have to do the rest of your life." And I said, "Okay." So then he told me the conditions, and that's what I do.
So we all know that once you go there and they tell you not to share things, you're not allowed to share those things, right?
I never have.
But you just do those practices
Yep.
or whatever he gave you to do for the rest of your life.
That's right.
So can you tell us, though, what you do that's for the benefit of humanity? It's for people here. It's their way of working through you. It's like God's way of working through you to help everyone. Can you say that?
I'll get to that part in a minute. But what I'd like to say is that after what I noticed right away, and it lasted, and one wrist almost a year, but I didn't fully understand. I really didn't know anybody that was real religious or spiritual at the time. So I didn't fully understand it, but I couldn't understand why on both my wrists, right about here, there was a hole. There was a divot. It wasn't a hole right through on both hands.
So you had the stigmata.
So I realized after a while there was a stigmata. I even talked to a minister and a priest both, and they said, "Yeah, that's a stigmata."
Right.
Because they showed Jesus being hung on the cross with a lot of paintings, and people say a hole through the wrist, but he wasn't nailed there. It was through the wrist.
Yeah.
And
because I wouldn't be strong enough to
yeah,
tear.
that's right.
Yeah.
Just tear and fall down. So that was
That was 16, 17?
I was 17 years old. Yeah, there's another July. Lots happens in July because later on in life stuff happens too. But anyway, yeah, it was a very moving experience, and I really had to ponder it and think about things.
So did you notice anything in your day-to-day life change from that? Like I imagine, having this type of experience, it would be difficult to share with just anybody, right? Because, not everybody believes that there is another side or there is spirituality or something else. So what was that like for you, having gone through the already 3 experiences, and are you able to share those with people back then? And what did that do to you as a child?
I never shared it with anybody. And I didn't know for sure what to share, but I know even as a child, I always felt when critical parts of my life came around, where I had to make some decisions and stuff, I could feel there was somebody with me and protecting me. Like when I was younger, I don't know, it was a year or 2 before that, I was on the streets in Vancouver with some other guys. We took off, ran away from home, basically. One guy was older and he had the car.
Right. So you left.
So we left.
Right.
For a couple months. I don't even, at least a couple months. But the thing was that we were there, and I was walking around and got feeling like, I don't belong. And there was this one Chinese fellow. He was going to university, and he was working at his dad's store, which was just a little ways away from where we were staying. And he kept telling me, he said, "Look at you guys." He said, "And you don't belong here.
You don't fit in.
You don't fit in. You don't belong with this group or that way of life." And then it dawned on me that, yeah, I should go home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I phoned my sister in Saskatoon if I could stay there and arranged to catch a train
Mm-hmm.
and head home. Yeah, it was a big push. Then a week later, they all ended up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't there.
So somebody
I
was
missed that
guiding and
event.
protecting
Yeah.
you, right? And
Yeah.
so you found that through these near-death experiences, then that was something that you noticed, that there was always somebody putting you in the right situation or getting you out of the wrong situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way I can explain some of the stuff that happened when I was younger. And I was alone a lot
Mm-hmm.
when I was little.
Right.
Yeah.
So are those the only 3 experiences you had, or you had more experiences where
Well,
you were
I
near death? I know you've had more spiritual experiences. And
lots. Yeah.
and do you think that those are from having the near-death experiences and being connected?
Yeah, I think they are. And it's just bringing me closer to realizing that I am protected and that they are there. The angels are there with me. And even as a kid, I went to different churches with friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's what us as kids did. If we had to go to church, okay, we'll go
Right.
here, go over there. Parents would send us out with somebody. And
Right.
so anyway, but I always understood, I realized they all talk about there's one God,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all fighting. Each one's fighting with each other.
Each church is fighting against the other church. Yeah.
And we're better because we got a better God. Well, there is only one God in the universe.
Right.
That's my understanding from my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's true.
Yeah.
And one of I'd like to just talk about one experience I had, visual experience. Like I've had lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 32 years old then, I believe. And I was working at a potash mine. I was an apprentice electrician. So my journeyman sent me for parts. So I was walking back. It was March 17th, nice spring day. I was walking alongside a Quonset, and to the left was a tailings pond. The sun was coming up at 7:30 in the morning,
Right.
or 8 o'clock. All of a sudden, I'm walking in a valley. I look to my right, and there's the cliff was quite close, or the edge of the valley, and then there's the open water with reeds close by and the mist on the reeds. Like early in the morning in the north, you'll see the mist.
Right.
And to the left, further away, was the other side of the valley. Then it all comes together further down, and where everything goes. And there's this bald eagle soaring in the sky, and then somebody's reading Psalm 23 to me. And they're reading the Psalm 23. The thing is, when I was already used to this stuff happening to me. All of a sudden, I'm somewhere else. In reality, I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm experiencing something else.
Something else from another.
From another dimension,
Yeah.
or another plane,
Yeah.
the spiritual realm. And so I'm walking along, and they're saying Psalm 23, and so I put my head down. I shake my head. I said, "Look it." I said, "I'm working. I don't have time for this right now. Leave me alone."
Yes.
And so I look up, and I'm still in this friggin' valley, and you're still reading the psalm to me, and then I accepted what it was, and I put my head down. I said, "Can you please leave? Can we stop
Mm-hmm.
this? You have to go to work."
Yeah.
Because I don't see the reality when I'm in those places. I just see where they sent me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's so acute, I guess you call it, that I can smell the air and I can feel it.
It's so real.
Yeah, it's so real.
It's in that reality. So
Yeah.
you've left this reality and gone to another reality.
Yeah.
And they're showing you something.
Yeah.
So do you think there was a reason that it was Psalms 23 that they were showing you?
Definite reason. It was
Mm-hmm.
that I'm always protected, and God will be there for me,
Right.
and He'll send angels for me.
So were you going through something at the time, or
Not really.
no?
I was
They
thinking
were
about
just-
getting married for the second time.
Well, maybe
We're just
that's what they
working
were
on that.
protecting
Yeah.
you from.
Well, I got married and it lasted 16 years or 17 years.
There you go.
It actually turned out pretty good. Raised the boys good. And,
Yeah. Awesome.
she was good to the boys. And,
So you were talking to me earlier, about other experiences that you've had. So sometimes you were saying that You have ascended masters and people like that that will just show up in your shower, or, like start talking to you and take you places. That's what you're talking about, is you're just actually in that moment with them, and you've left this dimensional plane, right?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? Like, you're saying
that does happen, yeah.
Yeah, but you never know when it's going to happen.
No, all these things are a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
It even happened when I was working up north, Fort McMurray. Different
Mm-hmm.
things happen. I'm walking to go get a permit or something. All of a sudden, I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
is how much do I want to say? I like praying when I have a shower, when the water's running down on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that's where if there's going to be it's a different connection. Than the connection then is with the spiritual. And like, one of the things is I'll be praying, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting in with the Buddhist monks in Tibet.
But isn't it funny though that those near death experiences that you had were with water, and that now when you're making connection, right, and you're saying you're praying in the shower, that's your best connection.
Yeah.
So it seems like that was like kind of like a bridge for you to get to the divine.
Yeah, water's the conduit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird because I'd be sitting there, and then all of a sudden I got like this, and I'm humming away with the monks, with the Tibetan monks.
And you just know what to do,
and
right?
There's 5 of them with the same group. We're the same group of buddies. So, and they every once in a while they show up. Not lately, and
but it's just a knowing. Like, you seem to talk about just knowing what to do, knowing what prayer to use. You just sit there, and you all of a sudden are chanting with them.
Yeah.
So that means that it's coming from another source.
Yeah.
Right. It's not coming from this reality. Yeah. Wow, how profound.
And I have a huge connection with with a lot of manifestations of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what you're hinting at. But I told you about when I was in the shower, and all of a sudden there's Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Baha'u'llah, and then they say, don't forget Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
That he's part of it. And then it was so emotional, and I subconsciously, I know I'm hearing them, I'm answering them, but I don't verbally hear what they're saying.
Well, they use like telepathy,
yeah, just
right?
telepathy. And then all of a sudden, I said, why did you pick me to do this? And this one I heard loud and clear, verbally, their voices. They said, because you're strong.
Yes, and because God chooses those people, right? That no one would expect to rise above and have these gifts. And, you're an electrician, right? Who would suspect that some electrician from Fort McMurray or Edmonton or wherever has these gifts?
Yeah.
But they are the gifts of the spirit, right?
Growing up as a child, the different things I did. And I always, my mother would always say, well, who'd you bring to the restaurant today for a free meal?
Oh, okay. So even back then, you were saying?
Oh, he's a friend of mine, or she's a friend of mine. We're going to have a hamburger or something and a drink, and give it for free. And she said sometimes she didn't know who's sleeping downstairs at our place, because she'd say I'd be dragging people over for a place to sleep, and they'd sleep downstairs.
Yeah. So just that compassion for humanity came through very young and very early.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And one connection, I'd like to say it happened in 1986. Speaking of stigmatas and that, it's in 1986. We were in Saskatoon, and we were shopping it was on Good Friday, and we were picking up a card. We're in more of a spiritual store that sells religious artifacts.
Right.
So picking up a card, and all of a sudden I'm on the cross. Me, myself, I'm on the cross. And before that was, God so loved the world, he gave up his only son.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the cross, hanging on the cross. The sky is starting to turn. This black cloud is just starting to sweep over everything. And there was Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, 2 other women, and a man and only 3 centurions and nobody else there. And
Which is after they nailed him to the cross.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
was told to us in the Bible, right? Yeah.
so there I was, and there I was experiencing what Jesus experienced, and that was really powerful.
Yeah.
Because I've had other connections, and it only happened twice, and the second time it happened was in 2018 on Good Friday. I happened to be going on a trip with my sister, so she said, "Oh, let's just go to church," and we went to the church, and we were praying, and all of a sudden I'm standing on the cross again, but it was different this time. The number of people there were the same, but these are the only 2 times in my life it happened. 1986 and then in 2018. But this time a centurion came up and stabbed me under the left side, under the rib cage. I could feel the spear go in, but I didn't feel any pain. And
so like these are all the different 5 stigmatas, right, that Jesus went through.
that was another one of them.
You've experienced the
wrist,
the side, and the feet. Have you had the feet yet?
I don't. My feet. I always had trouble with my feet. I don't know if it's. There's a whole other story about them with feet. If I was going on a trip one time, and I had thought, okay, I'm going to be in Vegas, and so I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to walk up and down the strip and do this, that, and the other thing. And when I'm not supposed to do something always gets in the way. So what happened? My gout was so bad when I got there. When I got off the plane, I could hardly walk to the taxi.
So you couldn't go and do the things that you
I
wanted
couldn't
to
go
do
down the strip and
get
find
in
a friend.
trouble.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing,
That
right?
is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the vision I had before that, it was actually, if I did that, it was going to be really bad.
So
Extremely bad.
So we're just going to wrap up here.
Okay.
So what I could see from discussing this with you is that all of these near-death experiences actually were a gateway to opening a lot of your spiritual gifts and your spiritual sight and visions and things that you get. And how does that affect you? Because I know when you came to us here in Clair-i-tea, you were saying to me like that you hadn't told anybody these things. And that you were
maybe 2 people.
Yeah, but you felt comfortable sharing
Yeah.
with us, and that you were in a safe space, and we're grateful for that as well, because that's what we do hold here. So why do you think all of this was happening, and has it increased now with the events that are going on in the world with COVID and stuff? Like, what are you experiencing with all of this?
Yeah, the events for me spiritually have really increased, and I knew when I retired, and actually I should have worked a little longer, but this guy didn't like me, so as soon as he became my boss on Monday, he canned me on Thursday up at Redwater. And anyway, that was a good thing because I was 65 already, and after I retired, I was supposed to really delve into the spirituality of what I can do, because I can do stuff. I can heal. I've healed people, and I don't have to meet them, and which some people don't understand. That, well, don't you have to put your hands to them? No, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
If it's going to work, it's going to work.
Right.
So I do that, and it's actually become stronger, and I'm supposed to dwell on it. And like when the 5 manifestations of God came to me, that was April last year. They said in 6 months. In that time, you have to do certain thing, and I did it. And then the last 2 months of last year, they said that's when you'll start getting more in tune, because things are really going to pick up spiritually. And the thing is, I could say a lot of things, but I don't know if it's going to be something just between me and someone else personally that's going to be a good cause for humanity, and it'll be all about humanity and the human race, and or if it's going to be something massive where I might be involved with teaching a bunch of people.
Right. So that it's your evolution that you're on, and this has sped it up.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Like you'd even question me, and I'd say, you know what? I don't get a memo.
Mhm.
He doesn't text me or email
Yeah,
me.
exactly. We all want the text and the
Yeah.
email, but we all got to go through it ourselves. So
Yeah. And the thing is that I know from my past experiences through my life that I'll have the strength to do what I'm called upon to do.
yeah, when you need it.
When I need it, it'll be there.
That's what we talk about, being in the flow. And so when you're connected, it just naturally flows, right?
Yeah. Oh, it does.
Well, Steve, I'd like to thank you for being our guest today and sharing and being vulnerable. I know that it's difficult to share some of these stories, and there are things that you can say and things that you can't say.
Yeah.
But I just want you to know that there are a lot of people out there that are listening who have gone through the experiences that you have, and may or may not have shared them, but now know that there are others. So
Mhm.
I want to thank you for doing that, and thank you for coming into Clair-i-tea. And for any of you out there that may have experienced a near-death experience and wish to share and inspire others, you can contact me at clairity7@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to speak to you about it. And right now I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to say God bless and have a wonderful day.
Yes, God bless.